And
we
we're
are.
live. What was that? I forget what show that was. That started with "And we're back." Oh, it was an SNL skit with Jimmy Fallon. So anytime we do a live thing, I think of, "And we're back." I think it's him and Justin Timberlake. But welcome to Social Kick. I'm Brian Lundquist. We got the full crew: Dr. John Mullen, Luke Paddington. We're gonna have several other people joining throughout, or maybe not that many. I don't know. We got Jake from Swimbridge Buoys. Thanks, Jake, for hopping on. Appreciate it, man. You're looking
Guys,
jacked.
joining throughout.
While we're at it, we may need to do some muting on the other end because we heard some echo on your end, Jake, I think. But while we get some audio sorted, we're not normally doing a whole lot of live stuff, but if you see us on today and you want to hop on, the context of this is yesterday. The Enhanced Games announced with a giant press release the fact that they're having a live games in Vegas next year. And I think what shook the swimming community, of course, was the announcement that Christian Golomeyev went 20.8. And so we posted something on Instagram with the video of the race. And let's just say that their press release worked because it got everybody's attention. Everybody was fired up. I think there's a lot of people that are against it. There's a lot of people that are for it. There's people that are pissed off at us for platforming, and shining a light on it. And but some background on why we started Social Kick in the first place is we used to go to John's house and we would watch the live stream of whatever swim meet was happening, NCAA's, Worlds, and we would drink scotch and drink beers and talk shit about swimming for a while. And that's all we do. That's what we do is talk about things that we think are interesting and that's happening in the sport. And clearly everybody was talking about it. And that's kind of like where we're coming from is we're going to have some observation of like, whoa, a thing happened. That's crazy. And we're going to talk with each other about it. I think that's what happens in Social Kick at practice. That's what we do as friends. And that's honestly like where we come from on all of our stuff. So sometimes it comes across as like teaching because there's something educational that we think is cool from something a top athlete's doing. Sometimes it's, observing a fast swim. Sometimes it's just poking fun and laughing and talking about peeing in the pool. So it's like a full spectrum, but we're explicitly don't think of ourselves as news. It's just friends who are talking, and now here we are with other people who are joining the conversation. And also, I'll say that on this, continuing on this bit of a rant, sorry, is that I think it's really important, generally, not only in this country, but in the world today, that people are able to talk about things and have civil dialogue and listen to different opinions. And not to say that, everybody changes their opinion, but like, I think it's a good, healthy thing to consider other opinions and to be open to changing yours. Because otherwise, like, what are we doing? We're just furthering the divide between each other politically, religiously, etc. Name your like topic where there's divide in the world. And so I'll just say, like, for me personally, I'm an advocate for hearing what other people have to say. Where are they coming from? Doesn't necessarily mean that I might like alter my opinion, but it might give me a different perspective on why their opinion is the way it is, rather than just listening to it and immediately digging my heels in and rejecting it. So that's like the way that I want to interact with the world. That's the spirit that I come to like any content that we create, especially if it's polarizing. And so, yeah, that's end rant. John, Luke, Jake,
Thank you.
anything to say?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. We're just here to talk, and I think all of us are still learning about this event and still very raw and feeling it out and learning ourselves all about it. So we're just hoping to chat about it, and like I said, hopefully, like I said, get our own opinions squared away. Because I know personally, and we can all kind of talk about our own views, but I think this pulls at us a lot from different angles for sure. And I go back and forth on my views on this whole thing. The more I think about it from different aspects for different people. But excited to chat more about it.
And I was gonna say, listen, it's important that we shine a light on this as a community and we talk about it as a community and not just forget it's not there and it doesn't exist. We need to talk about there's racism in our sport. We need to talk about there's depression in our sport. We need to talk about a lot of the issues in our sport so we can come together as a community and figure it out. Yes, shining a light in it has a lot of negative connotations at times and can take in our context, and that's why we need to talk more. So, Jake, thanks for joining. Marge, thanks for joining, and I appreciate you guys coming on to have a chat.
So I think with that,
Go ahead.
open dialogue, you guys. This is no unstructured. I'm just curious. Like we invited you guys on because you commented on the reel that we posted, and also we've met or shared experiences together before, and so it was just like, hey, Jake, like, what got you fired up yesterday? You were kind of on the opposite side, opposing what's going on with enhanced games. So I'm just curious, like, what struck a chord with you? What's going on in your mind right now?
Yeah. So just a little background with me. So obviously I wasn't in the Olympics or won any medals like Margaret or other people, but coached some pretty high level swimming. Was at Carmel Swim Club for a very long time. When I got out of swimming, I immediately shifted gears into powerlifting, where performance enhancing drugs are very prevalent. I mean, I would say a majority of the sport is using stuff. And you have like what we call an untested federations, where they don't do any drug testing. And then you have drug tested federations. So like somebody like me, like at the beginning, I was like, I want to be in an untested or a tested federation because I want to compete with people just like me. And then it kind of being like, well, this is just me really competing against me, and it's just for me. So like, who do I really care who I'm lifting against? So I didn't really care. So like, to me, it wasn't that big of a deal. It's like, we know from that sport, it's like, well, when you take stuff, you get stronger. And the way that we always saw it is the strongest guys that were in the natural federations, when they got to the top of the sport, usually there is, unfortunately, like a lot of seems like this scenario, there's more money and the untested federations of powerlifting with sponsorships with strongman, stuff like that. So a lot of them shift over to the pressure of, I need to take steroids to generate more money, income. And it just reminded me so much of that, as like, well, duh, of course, if you're already a world-class athlete, you place multiple times at the Olympics in the top 8, you're going to take some stuff. Yeah. I mean, to me, it's like making a big deal out of something that should be expected is what I gotta like. And I feel like it was just self-generated. Like, we're just trying to get the train rolling momentum wise. So it was like, I don't think it was a lot of hype from the swimming community. It's more like, just like, let's try to generate this. And like, that rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that perspective. I didn't think about the powerlifting and the world strongman scenario side of it versus I thought about it as like professional wrestling versus like Olympic wrestling. Wrestling, but yeah, powerlifting against it. Thank you, Jake. I appreciate it. Marge, what about you? You also had a reaction to it, and thank you for joining. What was your opinion on it? Now we can talk about it, and then we can talk about it together.
Yeah, my cat is now joining us as well. This is Tango. I'm pretty against it, and I was just thinking about it from the health perspective, right? As a female, like, my first thought was, I'm now in my 40s. I'm wanting to have children, and there's a lot of things we don't know about what these drugs do, right? They affect men also, but like, especially if you look back at the East Germans, they took a bunch of things, and a lot of those women were not able to have children 10, 20, 15 years later, right? And so I think there's a lot we don't know about these drugs, and sure, maybe everyone will be fine, but that's the point. We don't know we don't know, right? And I just look at it as, is $1 million worth risking your health, right? I mean, and that's not just about kids. Like, we're talking about cancer. We're talking about who knows what side effects there could be. And I just think that's really short-sighted to not take that into consideration. I mean, yeah, I would love to have $1 million, but not die 20 years earlier because I didn't think about that. So I mean, I think that's one element. And then I think the other thing to think about is, like, what are some of the rules and regulations here, right? Like, Okay, one of the things that they have put out publicly is that he put on 10 pounds of muscle. Great. And I don't know that he personally is planning on going back into competitive swimming, but all right, hypothetical situation, you wait X amount of time, stop taking drugs, continue working out, you could get back in the testing pool of legal USA swimming, and you're still going to retain a portion of that muscle that you've now put on. Right. So even if he lost 90% of the muscle mass that he's just put on from taking illegal substances, 10% muscle mass gain is still 10% muscle mass gain that he gained illegally. And if he waited 4, 5, 6 years, right, he's going to test all drug tests and be clean, and then he's going to be competing against clean athletes, and that's completely unfair. So I mean, I think that's also things we have to consider and think about, like long-term effects of the sport.
Yeah, you two bring up great points, and some of the big ones I had, and like you said, Margaret, they say they're doing all the health testing, and they may be doing all top-notch health testing of these athletes to make sure that what they're doing is safe, but we really don't know the long-term effects. There's no, peer-reviewed studies. One, because a lot of these are banned substances that unfortunately can't actually get approved for peer-reviewed studies. So we really don't know great details about anabolic steroids or their interactions with other drugs. And, in a vacuum, it all sounds good. Oh, we're going to do the best testing. Doctors, prescribing it and all that. But that is definitely a slippery slope. I think the way to go against that is like, well, hey, we take all types of things we don't know the effects of. There's all these GMOs in food. There's, we're taking tons of supplements as elite athletes, and they're not always vetted out properly. So I guess I'll put it back on you, Marge. What would you say to those people that are saying that, hey, there's a lot of things we already don't know?
I think every day things are coming out in the paper and going, I mean, I grew up in the 80s, and how many things are they telling us nowadays? Like, have glass water bottles because all the plastic water bottles we had in the 80s are apparently going to give us cancer, right? Like, I mean, I feel like every day we are learning new information. And so I think you're always going to take things, you're always going to have things that you don't know about, right? Smoking. How long did they not know that smoking caused cancer, right? You know what I mean? Like, there's always going to be things you don't know about, but that's one thing to do something because you don't know about it. It's another thing to go into it knowing that there's a risk. And again, I guess the question here is technically they don't know, but you do know that there's a risk.
And we had James Magnuson on maybe a year or two ago where we just talked about it when he first announced he was going to be on. And we asked tons of questions. We asked the same question as you, Marge. I said, James, so are you the guinea pig? Like, are they testing on you and you are going to be the first person? And sorry. And he says, well, no, I'm following protocols and medical policies that's been in play in Hollywood, in major American professional sports for years. And I've been working with the doctors and scientists who've been doing that for years. And so I'm following proven methodology. But that's not a 20-year or 30-year test
Exactly.
pool, as you're saying as well. I get it. And so that's definitely a consideration. And when I think about that, half of me, quite honestly, says, well, they're signing a paper, they're making that decision, and they want to make that risk. That's on them in a way. But in a way, it also is the example that's being set that people aren't seeing, right? Example, not just for the me of the world and the Brians of the world, but the kids. Because they're like, oh, that guy's he's doing fine. He's taking a risk, and look, he's fine. And that's where I think we've had a lot of setback with the examples that are being set by these athletes who are taking these personal risks at their own, they're adults, but what's happening in the sport. What do you guys think about that?
Oh, absolutely. I think
Yeah.
that would be my point number two is, I mean, I have a few nephews that are like between 15 to 24, and they're wrestlers, and you would not believe the stuff their friends are taking in high school, just for high school wrestling. And they're one of the best programs in Indiana. But like the stuff that they'll take, just because, like you said, the short sightedness, like we think about the short sightedness of us as like 30-year-olds or 40-year-olds, and then go down to 16. They can't think about an hour from now. So like, oh, I can take this and I can be 2 seconds faster. Like, why not? I mean, I'm not going to probably get drug tested. I can take this. I don't even want to say the things they can take. I don't want to even like say the names. And and then they're like, oh, it's like not even worrying about their health, right? Because like, oh, I heard my buddy's taking this, and look how fast he went, and or whatever sport it is, and now like they have this additional temptation, and it's like, so that's what I have a problem with. Is now it's even more publicized, and people used to get mad at actors or people being not transparent about what they're doing, and it has been a huge problem in the fitness community. People are transparent now, and it's almost weaponizing it in a way to where it's like, oh yeah, well, I want to look like this person, or I want to be that fast, so I'm going to do that too.
Yeah, and I think that's what it's missing right now. It's the context, it's the warning labels, it's the education about what's going on. Cigarettes have a warning label on it. Legalized marijuana in California has warning labels about its use. Any drug that you take for prescription medication has warnings about use and context. And then there's education to the general community about it. And so it's very difficult to just drop a new scenario. It's very dangerous to drop a new scenario there without everything that should be educational about it, which is why I think these communities and these chats we're having should be important. And the coaches should sit down with their athletes and say, yo, this is going on. We're not going to stop it. But hey, do you realize? Do you realize? And it's up to our coaches and our community to help protect us initially until something is done at a higher level. What do you think?
I agree. I mean, I think I work with kids and I coach, and I have parents constantly asking me, you know, what can my kid do to be better in this and that and these kids? And I'm like, your kid's 7, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to be this stressed out. Like, the number one most important thing is that they're having fun. And I think sometimes they get so caught up in the time or worse, the body image, right? I mean, that's a very dangerous line of how is someone supposed to look, and then you're talking about how this person feels about themselves because they don't look the right way, and you know, whether it's male or female, and you know, performance enhancing things are going to affect how your body looks, right? So that's going to play a very dangerous game, I guess, with body image. But you know, but I think depending, again, you're talking about young children, we don't need to put such an emphasis on, frankly, the time. I think the emphasis needs to be on the love of the sport. It needs to be on like technique and improvement. You know, sure, when they're older, right? I get that, but we already have some pretty intense, you know, soccer moms, if you will, in the swimming community, you know, and then that doesn't need to be worse.
Certainly. And there's overzealous parents, overzealous kids. And Jake even mentioned with your, you know, the wrestling community, people already taking things. So are we naive to think that kids and youth aren't going to get this stuff already and be already, you know, following these things and ahead of it? I guess it's more, I guess the opinion is the more it's out there with outlets like this and other things, the more they're going to see it and want to do it. So that temptation will be more. Is that the main concern?
Yeah, it's such a catch-22, right? I mean, it's like,
Yeah,
do we want to be open about it, and or it's almost, it sounds better. It's like, are we going to abstain? Are we going to completely abstain from talking about this, or act like it's not a thing, or do we be open about it and educate? Right? I mean, it's, and I do think it's education. Like and that's what's hard, is because there's all these unknowns. But I mean, there are so many resources of people that, or I guess it's like good and bad resources of like, hey, look, and some of them are horror stories. I mean, I've had friends die at 25, heart attack, like high level bodybuilders, like stuff that like, and it sounds like you were trying to scare them, but it's like there are stories of high level people and dying from taking these things that isn't publicized. It's not talked about because like it's not mainstream media per se. So it's like, well, how do we reach these athletes? How do we, I don't want to say scare them, but also be real with them, because it is sensationalized. I mean, they're on TikTok and they're seeing, especially with boys, they're seeing all these guys flexing and trying to do all these things and look macho. And this is like the culture that we're against. So I think we do have to be realistic, and I guess not naive to what they are consuming. So acting like it's not, or something they're already thinking about, it is, I do think, naive. So I do think it is comes down to education. Like we do have to be like, this is what they're seeing, and how do we combat that?
It is an age-old thing of drugs being cool. You know, have
Yeah.
some weed, have some coke, but we've had decades of these educational programs and help, and we have supporting bodies to help that, but it's still an issue of peer pressure and wanting to be seen cool, and now we have it in our sport, and I think we should talk about it.
Yeah,
Well, and
every
also
time
the
I'm hanging
money.
around John, he's like, "Hey, how about a beer? You know, how about a bump? You know, what do you got?"
Yep, I'm the worst. But
That's why it's
I mean,
non-alcoholic.
but it's true. We all do. A lot of us do things that are unhealthy that we already know, right? So I don't know. And then this is like such a
Thank you.
big, like, global health thing where it's like, there's many things we do that we know are not healthy and we still do it despite having the education and awareness. So, I mean, this is trying to fix global health here,
Right,
which is
right.
a huge, huge challenge. But what were you going to say, Marge?
Well, I was going to say, I mean, think about the money, right? If I'm a
Hmm.
13-year-old boy and I look at this and I'm a sprinter and I say, okay, I can start taking drugs now. I know I will be banned. I will never be able to go to the Olympics, but I can go to the Olympics and make a very small amount of money. Or I can start training as a 13-year-old, and in 10 years, I can make $1 million. And in 10 years, the prize money will probably be more than $1 million, right? We've now taken a kid out of the pool that could have been a gold medalist, that could have been a world record
Mhm.
holder, right? Because he's starting at an early age. I mean, right this second, the people that are doing, going for this are retired athletes who are like, all right, cool, I'm going to see what can happen. But where does this go? At what point do we take our potential athletes who are going to be the next Michael Phelps, the next Caleb Dressel, and
Yeah.
now they're not going to be that because they're just going to go for the money? And that's no judgment. I mean, that is a life-changing, right, amount of money. That is
Yeah.
something to consider. And so, I mean, that's a tough decision.
And that's what happened with baseball. Is like you would have these athletes in high school and second, third world countries, and like, I might as well try to take stuff. Like, I have such a small chance anyway, such little opportunities. So I'm going to take all the steroids I can get, be a slugger. And if I get it, drafted in the MLB and I get popped and I get suspended, well, it was worth the payout to get there. Right. So
Already
I
made it.
absolutely agree with you. Like, what is the long-term effects of this when we're 8 years down this road?
I guess what I struggle with on this is like, well, where do we reconcile everybody's choice to do free will, do whatever you want with your own body, it's your choice, and like, you know, there's a lot of vices out there that are bad influences, and every time there's a Bud Light commercial, I don't see the swimming community all pissed off that their kids saw the Bud Light commercial or that people are drinking it, at meets and whatever, and it's like. I mean,
They
maybe
were when we were
coaches aren't
sponsored by
mad.
it, though.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you used to have alcohol sponsors in the sport of swimming, but like, and don't get me started on sugar. Like, there's plenty of vices out there that we're actively selling at swim meets and Fun Dip and all of this that nobody's all up in arms about, and that's probably a bigger health risk than on the aggregate for the population than like PEDs or steroids. And so that part I really struggle with is like people are allowed to do whatever they want to do. There's plenty of bad things that kids or young people could do today that are hanging out there. So like, and those influences are readily out there. So that can be consumed and probably are consumed way more than even exposure to enhanced games. I understand the counterpoint to that like if you have a choice not to promote it, then and we can curb that. Some of the influence of kids thinking that there's an opportunity to take drugs. Yeah, sure. But I can tell you, like, I don't know that you really want to do this, but let's say, like, poll your 13-year-olds that are on the team and go, do you guys even know where to go? Like, I, I barely know where I could buy weed today. If I wanted to buy like cocaine or some hard drugs, I frankly for me, I wouldn't even know where to go. So I
But
don't know
kids are
where to go
smarter than
buy.
you, B. They're head on the tech. I'm sure they could figure it out. I
No,
think
I
that's
don't
not
know,
true. I
man.
think they could find it online
our
and get figured out.
parents send it
You
to
could
the
order
Sure.
peptides like that online.
Yes.
I'm
It's
with Luke.
really
I
not
think
that
the
hard.
parents. I
it's
think
the
the parents are going to be all over that.
No,
Mhm.
no. A buddy of mine says the number one pusher of PEDs to teenage athletes are their parents, and I don't know how
Yeah.
true that is, but I can see that.
Mm.
Well, stop doing it, Luke.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
come
my
on.
9-year-old.
Shot put.
Honestly, if there's ever an argument, Luke should be the one who's doping right now because you're trying to get ready for Masters Worlds. And like, hey, how about like you're actively dealing with muscle atrophy every
Yeah.
day. I see it. And
No, but
so
honestly, I am doing everything I can to get as fast as I can. I'm getting the best suits. I'm getting supplements, Rowdy Gains, thank you. I'm doing everything you can, all the training, all the things you're doing legally. Um, if I got paid $1 million, would I consider doing it illegally? Well, I mean, not dangerous. I don't know what PED drugs. I don't know, to be honest. I'm 50 years old. I know probably if I was 20 and I had no money and it helped me. It's a really interesting moral debate you have personally, guys. You know, Margaret, you know, you've competed for Olympic medals to be on top of the world. You know, but you didn't get paid for your stuff. You got paid nothing. You know, but was important to you
whoa,
or not?
whoa,
It
whoa.
wasn't.
But
Made some
honestly,
money.
it is
No,
a
not
moral.
$1 million. She didn't get $1 million.
I did not get $1 million. No, but I mean, like, I have German heritage, right? So like, I love sitting around thinking about this. Like, I think about like, what if I was living in East Germany, right? Like, what would I have done in those scenarios? And I think it's interesting to think about your life choices when you have choices, when you don't. I mean, this is different because you're not being forced to do it, but you're right. Like when you're 19, 20 years old, you don't have any money. You're not looking in the future the same way you are in your 40s and 50s. I'm not going to sit here and say that I wouldn't do it or that I wouldn't consider it. I mean, I don't know, right? Like I'm also living in a country where I have a lot of opportunities and
Yeah.
you know, like I was not destitute at 20. So you know what I mean? Like it's hard to say what you wouldn't do.
By the way, I remember the East Germans. They didn't know that what they were taking. They were just given by their coaches.
Yep.
And the 16-year-old Cornelia, she had no freaking idea until it
Yep.
came out.
Yeah,
Now
that's
they
very
regret it, which
different.
is interesting.
That's very
Yeah, it's
different
very
than
very
knowing what you're taking, though.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
absolutely.
Agreed.
What is the attractiveness of this long term, you think? Listen, somebody went fast yesterday for us. We saw it, right? But that's for us. We know what 20.89 means. It looks fast. But you know what, are you going to keep going faster and faster? I mean, I can go fast today with flippers and a buoy. I can also enhance myself and go fast. But is that cool for me to have gone fast with flippers? What is the long-term attractiveness of this to see like somebody go 19 points long course, you know, with how attractive is that going to continue being as a viable entity versus somebody who worked night and day, has that story, who, you know, is all natural and keeps breaking a legendary record under the same rules as the person who set it. That's the key.
Well, I think that's a huge point. Is it about, you know, the perseverance and the story of athletes that we get invested in, or is it seeing the fastest person ever? Right? And I think that, and maybe it's both, right? Or a little bit of both, but I do think that's where, you know, I think, you know, Enhanced Games is going, hey, people want to see the fastest ever, and eventually it's going to get so fast, even clean athletes are going to come over and we're going to take over the Olympics. We're not going to go to, you know, Greece and bankrupt them, and we're going to be sustainable because we have all these backers. But I don't know. I think that's their vision from what I've understood them talking about, where they dream of all this going.
John,
Jake,
you're a
I think you're
baseball
gonna,
fan.
yeah,
Take me back to the '90s and the home run chase with McGuire and Sosa and all that. I mean,
yeah,
MLB
and it
that
was
was
huge,
totally
right?
there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like
But I
idea.
think the one difference is we all thought that was authentic. We may have been completely with the biggest blinders of our lives on, thinking that they were clean in retrospect. But we did think, at least I did, as whatever a 10-year-old or 10-year-old in Ohio, I thought they were clean, right? So it was
Agreed.
like, oh yeah, what a story.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
world records got boring in 2009. Would you guys say? Not boring, but like, oh, here's another
Nope,
one. Here's another one. Was it
not to
boring?
me.
100%. 100%.
Come on, here's
Honestly,
another one.
I
Not
think
to
they're a
me.
little boring now. I mean, I know that's taboo to say that, but like, I don't get nearly as excited seeing a world record now as I did in the early 2000s or the 90s. Because, I mean, Mary T. Maker, 19 years, right? Like, you used to go to a meet and 1 or 2 world records a year were broken. Now you're going to a meet and you're having 5, 6. And like, not to take anything away from those athletes, but like, at some point it's expected. And it's like, oh, well, you know, Gretchen Wallace didn't break a world record. Like she's having a bad meet. Like, what the heck? That's a horrible thing to say. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't break a world record, you're having a bad meet, or you only broke 3 instead of 4. Like, that's not okay. And to me, that's sad. I think these athletes are doing amazing, but I want to have that same height. I want to, and the fact that I'm falling into this, right? Like, I want to have that same excitement that we had for people in the 90s and the early 2000s when and again, I think this goes into all of social media, all of everything being at our fingertips, and people just don't have an attention span anymore. That's part of the problem. But like, we don't want to wait for things, and we lose our focus, we lose attention span, right? So now if you wait a year and it doesn't happen, it's boring. And that's, I think, part of why these enhanced games are even being formed in the first place, because people are like, well, the sport's not boring, we need to make it exciting. I think it's exciting when something doesn't happen for a long time. You have the build up, right? And then but again, I also think I'm probably not the normal person with that point of view.
What I'm curious is, like, when you get somebody in this enhanced game, like, if you got, like, I know Cam would know, he's come out against, but what you're going to get somebody that's already top level, that's going to get on stuff, and then the record's just not going to get broken. So, like, what's going to happen when I'm thinking, like, the sustainability models, like, after a while, okay, the records are broken, like, they're not going to all of a sudden just get rebroken over and over and over again. So I feel like it's almost like a flash in the pan, in my opinion, of what's going to happen with this. Like, it's going to seem really cool and interesting. And then after a while, it's like there's not going to be a lot of records broken. So that's like the hype train is like, we're going to break all these records. Well, you're going to get somebody that's going to break all of them. And then what's going to happen? But I guess that's what the money is, right? It's like if they keep throwing enough money, it's like, well, if you can make, you know, maybe you guys noticed, I don't know, like if Michael Phelps, in 2008 broke 8 records, would he have gotten $8 million per event? Like, how does it work?
Yeah.
Right. Like, I guess I'm curious. It's like, well, if you have one guy that comes in, it's like, well, I'm going to break 4 records. Leon Marchand's like, oh, I won $5 million. I'm going to break 5 records and hop on some gear. Like, what? I guess I'm curious what's going to happen after somebody decides to do that.
I agree. There's no long term on this. I want to touch on the reason why this is so hot is because people freaking hate drug use in swimming, because drug use in swimming is freaking cheating. And I have friends who got their medals stolen from them, their gold medals stolen from them. They are proven drug treats. You all have as well. And it is terrible when you're standing on the blocks and everybody else is doing something different to you and illegal, and they're cheating either with the drugs or with a funny turn or something. So that's where this is coming from. Yes, it's a health concern. Yes, it's a bad example for the kids. Yes, it's doing all this stuff. But at the end of the day, it's heated because it was considered cheating. But how do you guys feel about it now? Like, hey, I'm out there. Look at me. I'm doing it. It's fair, and I'm going to swim fast. There is a little bit, it's weird to say, but there is a little bit of like, okay, in the honesty of that at least. Like, hey, I'm going to drug cheat. What do you think about that? About that being honest about what they're doing?
Well, wait, it's not cheating. It's objectively
cheating. That's
not
what I'm saying.
cheating.
Well,
No, I'm
it's
saying
still cheating.
emotions
It's
of the
legalized cheating. It's legalized
not-
cheating. It's
It's
in the
legalized,
rules.
but it's not cheating on
What
their rules.
is that? That's such an oxymoron. What does that mean?
It is, but it's
That's like
cheating.
saying hot ice.
It's performance enhancing, right?
Icy
By
hot.
definition, performance enhancing is cheating because it's not authentic, it's not natural. So the rules allow it, but cheating, it like by my definition, it's performance enhancing, which is cheating. In that league, it is allowed. So is it an oxymoron? Yes, but like I would still call it cheating but it's allowed.
But that's the thing. They're not trying to compete in a legal
Yeah, I agree.
swimming race. It's a totally separate entity. So they're like, it is within the rules. Therefore, it is not cheating. So that's the difference that I see a lot of people saying, oh, they're cheating by the break. Well, they were if like they were to ratify that world record, yes. But that's not even on the table or what's being proposed.
And I do completely agree with that, right? Like I completely agree with that. But I think sort of what Luke is saying, like at least for me, that's where the emotional like component comes from, right? Like
totally.
That's where I feel it. The logical part of me recognizes they're not breaking a rule, but not breaking a rule to me is that's the rules of the league they are in. That doesn't make it not cheating. If that
now I feel like it gives like an opportunity to people that are like, okay, well, I'm going to try to not get caught. And if I get caught, well, I can just jump in here and make some easy money. Like I might as well. I'm going to try to get by, not
Yeah.
get caught, and then if I get caught, I can hop over to the enhanced games, really blast some gear, and make some more money. Like I don't like that part either. Like,
There
it
is
isn't
something
cheating,
about
but it stinks.
to me, like, one of the things about Marchand's 4-2 was just how he swam it, like what he went through and his skill set to do what he did to do that 4-2, the training. And to me, that was the amazingness of that swim, because I've tried to swim that swim and I am a 502. Like it's hell. And that's the part of the joy of seeing fast swimming for me. Not putting
Well,
on
and
flipping.
to that point, you can ask swimmers from different eras what cheating is, right? I personally think the backstroke wedge thing that falls in the water, I don't even know what it's called. I think that's cheating because,
Right.
in my opinion, if you do a backstroke properly, you will never slip. Like it's literally like it's physics. You will not slip. And so I look at that as if you slip on a backstroke start, you deserve to not win the race. Just like if you mess up your stroke count and you screw up your turn, you don't deserve to win a race like that. So I just feel like we're dumbing the sport down,
Yeah.
right? And so therefore, like it's less elite. But if you ask someone from the 80s about the backstroke turn and not being touching the wall, they're going to say modern turns are cheating, right? So I think different eras are going to call different rules cheating based on one how they competed and their view on it, and and that's okay.
And wedge doping.
I mean, Luke's still doing backwards flip turns, so
I
it's all
hate that.
good. He's still.
Oh, I hate it. But I do like the
So-
backstroke turn not touching the wall. So there you go.
So one angle that
You
enhanced
are the laser.
games is promoting or kind of going down, and I think it goes into what Brian was saying, where hey, this is just a different category. The swimming is our thing. We all swam, we love swimming. That's swimming, and this is more enhancing human life and biohacking. And Jake, I'm sure you've been around people that are more into biohacking with like you said, when you're hitting the gym more, it's very common people trying to improve all these different you know facets of life and trying to just be better, live longer, do all these things. Do we think there's any credibility in that we're actually going to find anything helpful for the common person with these games?
That's a great question. I personally don't think so.
Yeah.
Unless like I always think of like Brian Johnson and his like live forever protocol. That's like the first thing I thought of, right? Is like all these things.
200 pills.
Yeah, trying to live forever, trying like with the nanotech.
Optimize that nocturnal erection.
But I think that it's funny to me that that's what they're that's how they're trying to spin it. Like it's literally like Margaret was talking about, like the 80s and Easter. It's literally like what the Russians did and the Germans did. It's like we're acting like testing all these things and having guinea pigs is gonna all of a sudden make us healthier. Like I have a hard time like taking extra testosterone. Like there's so much research already on testosterone for like older gentlemen, and then like all the other exogenous hormones are like, what if we're taking whatever, or is I have a hard time believing that testing elite swimmers genetics who are training as hard as they can is, like you said, is going to have any place to on a common person who's sitting on their couch in Idaho. Like like how are we acting like this is going to have anything to do with them? Like it is crazy to me.
Or that
Shots
person
fired,
sitting on the
Idaho.
couch in Idaho is actually in peak physical condition or worried about optimizing their health.
Yeah. Like we just need to get them to take a walk, and we're talking about what can we inject in our bodies to. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I just want to do a quick nod to those who are watching and some of the comments we got from Texas Great Dax Hill, from Mexican podcaster Daniel Torres. We got a couple others as well. Thank you for your comments, and please, if you have any questions, just shoot it to me. Try to answer as well. Appreciate it.
A bunch of comments
shout
on
out
Instagram
Buttstroke
too,
Swim.
Luke. Yeah.
Oh, we got an
Yeah,
Instagram too?
Oh yeah, man, we got it here. Buttstroke swim goggles are eye doping. I agree. Yeah, everybody's saying cheating. The Vandergram, thanks, man. To cheating is when somebody's intentionally breaking the rules to gain an advantage over others, whatever the rules are in that competition. Totally agree. Yeah, I wanted to ask. about where what we consider PEDs, because I think a lot of people, this is like a really triggering topic because people hear drugs and PEDs, and immediately they think that there's a lack of safety, that it's like something really negative. And everything that I've heard from the enhanced game so far is that like their whole intent is to leverage substances that may be illegal in world aquatics competitions and other international competitions and against the doping protocols there, but like administered at the supervision of a doctor, and they're saying that they're trying to do so in a really healthy way. And so that part to me is like a bit in conflict, where you have like the natural tendency of everyone is that we associate this is dangerous, and it may be if administered like, off the street, just as if we were buying street drugs and taking them with the fentanyl crisis going on. It's like there's maybe a major risk taken there. But if what they're saying is true, that there's like, I will say I do believe that there are things that are on the banned substance list that are not necessarily inherently bad, but if someone's taking them in competition and everyone else isn't allowed to take them, then that's where it's bad. I think like science has evolved, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist to be able to like back up all of that. What I'm just saying is like I listen to things, I read things, and it seems to me that there's like some substances that are on the ban list that technically like might not all be that bad if you had the direct supervision of a doctor, you've got the right use case. There are drugs that can help with human longevity and increasing lifespan and health span. So like it's not like inherently bad, but that's one thing that I'm noticing is that their gut reaction is drugs are terrible. It's going to make you die. Marge, you even said this, like what if they die 20 years early? Like that's the assumption.
What if? But yes.
Right. And that's why, like I said that and went like, well, maybe if and when that happens, because I'm not hearing that they're just like throwing caution to the wind. And I don't think that, Christian Golomayev or James Magnuson or any of these guys are signing. I mean, these are like world top athletes. James Magnuson's a world champion. Christian Golomayev is a Olympic medalist, like very, very good. In the A final at all the international meets. These are top athletes. I have a really hard time believing that they're like, fuck it, who cares? Body's dying anyway. It's all downhill from here.
I mean, to be fair though, like you were a world-class athlete. When you look at the back of a supplement bottle, do you know what any of those words mean? Like when I was swimming and they're like, take at your own risk, I'm like, great, because I don't know what any of this stuff is. Like, I don't know what you know what I mean? Like I'm not a doctor. I'm not equipped to look at this. So if a doctor says, sure, this is safe, I'm like the East Germans, right? I'm going to go, great. Okay, cool. I'm allowed to do this. So, I mean, this is not in any way to say those guys aren't smart, but they're literally at the mercy of their doctors they have to trust them, right? You know what I mean? So like, this goes back to the argument of let's hope the doctors are doing the right thing. Let's hope the doctors know, right? Because these guys aren't going to know every little thing, like, nor should they. They've spent their lives training.
No. And I think you made a point that I was thinking about earlier today, Marge, about as an athlete, I always found I found like navigating the path of what I could and couldn't take to be kind of difficult to understand. And also, I to this day cannot define for you what is a performance enhancing drug objectively. There's no firm line. It's a general term. And as someone who has taken a multivitamin and taken a protein supplement and creatine and L-carnitine and other things that are on this like legal list that I'm not getting through my regular diet from food, where's the line between supplementing and then performance enhancing? Because I would argue I took them specifically to enhance my performance, because I felt like they did things to help me recover better, to help build muscle. What are we actually calling performance enhancing, and which one's negative and which one's okay? Couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I can't tell you on that either. I'm like, there's people that are paid a lot more than I am to to tell us that.
Yeah. I think in my opinion, like, so with like whey protein or creatine, that's like you can get it through food. You can't get exogenous hormones like testosterone through eating food. So like to me, that's like low hanging fruit. Pretty like that's pretty cut and dry. But you're talking about like the safety is like, TRT is beyond popular now. It's like you can be pretty safe taking 100 to 150 milligrams a week, and it's pretty like it's regimented by a doctor. You're doing all your lipid testing. They're doing all your triglycerides. They're checking you every 3 to 4 months. Like they can make sure your cholesterol's okay. That if I had to take a guess about what they're doing, that's about what they're doing. There may be a little bit more, but it's not. They're not like blasting like a bodybuilder because they'd probably honestly get too big. But I guess my point is that it's almost like what happened with the super suits is like then it becomes, well, who has access to testosterone? Who has access to what other steroids? It's like, when they're talking about like the long term, it's like then it's not even fair play. It's like, well, everybody can do it. It's like, well, then it becomes who has the most resources. It's not who's working harder, right? It's not who's putting in the training. It's, well, who's got the best drugs? Who's got, the latest, doctor or whatever science innovation. So then it's just opening Pandora's box of
Who has the most money?
who's ahead in the science. It's not even about who's working harder, who's putting in the work. It's just because at the end of the day, it sucks, but you build muscle just taking drugs. You don't even have to work. I mean, people think that's inflammatory. We literally have science. You could just take steroids and you can literally gain muscle sitting on your butt. It's literally the pathway it works.
That sounds pretty honest for all those couch potatoes in Idaho. Hey, I wanted to shout out Daniel Torres, who said baking soda is performance enhancing. So quick story, I tried baking soda in swimming once. I did this 100 free at University of Georgia in that cold ass pool. And I remember this is like kind of around the peak of my career. So I was like, I don't know, trying to optimize performance and trying anything that was there. And I don't think that it was illegal, but calling it performance enhancing, I think is, in my experience, definitely true because I cleared lactic acid so fast after I did 100 freestyle. And I felt like within 5 to 8 minutes, I was like fresh as a daisy, ready to race again. And for the first time in my life, I was like, so this is what it's like to be Phelps or Lochte. They can clear lactate so fast. And that's like a biological thing, an advantage that both of those guys had, that they were able to swim at a high level, but they just didn't produce a ton of lactate, and they cleared it really quickly, which was like enabled them to back up performances. But totally legally, by the way, not alleging that it was illegal. But on the flip side of the baking soda is you pay for it later in the day. And you know what I mean. So it was also terrible on the way down. Like having that much baking soda and 20 ounces of Gatorade.
Tums. Have Tums.
Brutal.
Yeah, I did. Tums still wasn't great.
I want to talk about one of the things that we've had about is the pros and cons of the amateurism of the Olympics. A little story. So my neighbor at one point was a very well-known NFL player who got busted for steroids and testified against the Balco case and got the whole Balco case indicted. And I remember sitting in his living room years after that happened and watching the Oprah interview of Lance Armstrong when Lance admitted for the first time that he was taking all this time. And I remember saying, God damn it, and I looked over and he was like, and then we had a very open discussion about it. And one of the things that he was doing it for was the pressure he had to earn a living, to keep playing, to deal with injuries, to still keep being the best at what he was doing, to keep making his millions. And that's where the lifestyle and money could be quite of a negative factor to take and need to take these PEDs to keep getting faster, to keep going faster. And that's why people do it, right? In the Olympics, you don't get paid you didn't get paid for your medals, Marge, right? You didn't get it to win those medals, but there's a pressure to get those medals.
She got paid for the medals?
Indirectly, yes.
Indirectly, yes. But the reasons these guys started this league, according to the Joe Rogan podcast, is two things. One, in 2000, there was a stat that came out saying that 44% of Olympic athletes said anonymously that they were doping. And then two, billions IOC deals NBC, nothing goes to the athletes. There's a disconnect there. Let's fix this issue. Let's fix the fact that people are doping under the radar and people aren't making money at the Olympics and it's a gladiator games. And that's where it's coming. But is the amateurism of the Olympics important that we keep, or is it okay to bring a value and money to it, and then the dangers of having money involved in the decision makings and therefore making you more viable to take PEDs and cheat? That's the core of this.
I mean, I don't really think the Olympics are immature, to be honest, at this point. Like, everyone is getting paid. It's just who is, they're getting paid by their country. They're getting paid by their, whoever they're getting paid for, right?
Not
Or sponsors.
millions.
But they're getting what'd you say?
Not millions, not NFL
No,
payments.
not
Yeah.
NFL company at all.
Yeah.
So I mean that's one thing, but yeah, I don't know if that changes.
No, I was saying that they started this league because they wanted to give money to the athletes. That's what they said. They said they want to pay athletes for being fast, and they wanted to also be clean with their drugs. That was the reason behind starting. This is where it all came from, apparently. What do you guys think about? Is that a fair rationale to start this?
Well, I think they're kind of combining things a little bit because I hear that and I'm like, yeah, we need to pass through more money to the athletes, in my opinion. I'm like, these athletes work hard. They should get what they've put into this.
Right.
So they're going down that route. But then, like you said, then there's the whole other route of the performance enhancing drugs and all this that kind of, I think, mixes. And like I said initially, I have so many different emotions because it's pulling on different things. And one of on that argument, Luke, I couldn't agree more that athletes should be getting paid more for their great performances, and a lot of that NBC, IOC money should get passed through, in my opinion. Now, is this the best way to do it? I think many would argue no, or say there should be a different way to go about it. So that's where I'm like, yeah, you guys are right there. Do I agree with everything you're doing and everything you're saying? No, but it's a good point on that element, in my opinion.
I think there's two things with paying, right? Like, one, the sport of swimming has been, all it's been doing is going up and up and up, viewership and money, right? Like, I was getting paid 1,000,000 times more than Rowdy Gaines got paid in the 80s. The athletes now are getting paid 1,000,000 times more than I was paid, right? So like, is it enough? Debatable. It's certainly nowhere near what NFL players are getting paid, but do we have the viewership that the NFL has? No. You know what I mean? So like, it's getting better. Right. And I think the sport is trying to figure out how to get that type of viewership. Also, one of the big complaints that I hear is, well, only the top people, are getting money, and that's not developing the sport. Well, who are the people that you've heard of? Who are the people that want to, you know what I mean? Like, we are not a team sport, right? We are a sport where people want to see the top 3 people. So yeah, the top 3 people are the ones making money. And does that make it hard to develop people along the way and have depth in our sport? Sure, because the person who's getting 4th, 5th, and 6th has a hard time making money. So there are problems that need to be solved, but that also, I think, has to do with being an individual sport and being, I mean, the top guys, they're not doing badly. Are they NFL? No. But also you have to, I mean, if you're in BC, you're looking at, we broadcast what, 3 swim meets a year, 4 swim meets a year. We broadcast how many NFL games a year? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, there is some, logistical stuff.
I was going to address something in the comments. Alfonso, you calling me out about not being, or being afraid about talking about therapeutic use exemptions. I'm not afraid of talking about them. I don't know what you're talking about with who specifically used TUEs that was in my circle, but
every top U.S. swimmer, B, come on now.
Well, I do think it's fair that there's that we probably live in a bubble, and the perspective of the rest of the world, that there's like an anomaly performance from a U.S. athlete, that there's a conversation in the rest of the world where they're going, oh, they're cheating. Like, there's certain countries that when there's an athlete from their country there and they have a blip, and this happened with Pan last year, that everybody's going, what the hell? And if he was from some different countries, they might not have thought that. And I think there's valid reasons for that concern, or, to call that into question because there is a history there. Same with like athletes from Russia. But like, I don't know. And I do think the whole idea of using a TUE is like can be kind of sketch as well as like the approval of it. I do think though that there are people who have asthma legitimately and need to have an inhaler who are trying to compete as an athlete. I think like Tom Dolan, for example, like the fact that that guy could do 4 IMs and was like hitting the inhaler, is like because his lungs didn't function properly without it. I don't know. Frankly, I don't know what to do about all that. So I think it can be certainly there are athletes who are abusing the TUE, but I do think there's legitimate cases of it too. I don't know. I'm not on the approval board, so
Yeah, TUEs is a whole nother can of worms, and I think one way to also think about it is, maybe the Olympics need to not have any TUEs and to ban any, be stricter on supplements and these other things. But I don't know. That's just a whole nother bigger thing to try to handle and answer. And I don't think we're ever going to be ahead of all types of enhancements, from pharmaceuticals to food to training and other avenues as well.
Yeah.
How do you guys think it's going to affect or be received by the other sports that enhanced games are targeting?
So track and field and Olympic weightlifting, I think those are the other two, right?
yeah, at least for
I don't
now.
know. We're the only silly sport that's got any athletes in it so far. Or smart sport, depending on what your view is, right? So I don't know. I haven't seen any other athletes
I
listed
don't
on
know,
their
but
site.
I think it'd be actually more interesting. This isn't a direct answer to your question, but I think it'd be more interesting to me if it was actually just doping, but all the rest of the equipment was the same. Um, and I don't know if that's like happening in other sports, if there's like some other equipment shift, but I think the suit thing is kind of strange to me. I don't see how that fits in. I don't know if that hasn't like might have an impact in other sports that had like a technological doping aspect of their history, that's like tainted all their records, and so this would be an opportunity to kind of like overcome or like eclipse whatever the fastest thing that occurred, unless you consider like Mondo tracks as part of that. Like that's their version of equipment doping, I think, right now. And of course, like carbon plates and shoes is a huge one in that sport. So like equipment plays a part in it, but obviously it played a huge part in swimming. So that would be interesting to me if there's like that element of it in different sports. Because ideally, to me, I'd rather see them like compete in the same exact equipment that is in the regular sport, so that you can just focus on like, okay, what's possible with the human body. Also, sorry, a bit of a tangent, but like these suits, this is why I wanted to have some other people on who are closer to the enhanced games, because he was wearing a Jacobs suit. Are they still making those, or is he wearing a 16-year-old suit? Like, how good is this suit, honestly, if it's been sitting in a drawer for 16 years? If don't wear a swimsuit for 2 years, I go to put that thing on and it's dry rotted.
Yeah.
So like, what is going
Happened
on
to
with
me.
this?
Well, and not, I don't exactly know where this fits in, but the suits back then, they didn't affect people equally across the board, right? So
Right.
it's not even like equal cheating or equal enhancement, if you will, right? Like it didn't help the better athletes as much as it helped the lower level athletes. So like you have a scale where it helps this person a little bit and then it helps this person this much. And so it's like a weird dynamic even on how it's helping people.
It helped me. So what does that say? Anyway.
I mean, it helps everybody. I'm just
I
saying,
know.
like, if it helps one person 1% versus it helps this person 5%, right? Like, I don't know the percentages, but like, it wasn't everyone gets 10%. You know what I mean? It wasn't equal across the board. And supplements are, like, I don't know, performance enhancing drugs might be the same way. Like, I don't know enough about those to know if we all get the exact same enhancement either.
Margaret, you missed the beginning of the conversation. And for those who did, I just want to reiterate what I'm gaining from this conversation is thank you for conversation. Thank you for, I think it's really important that we recognize that this is not going away. This is happening. We need to talk about it. We need to see it. We need to put it out there, but it has to come with guardrails that we ourselves as a community need to protect. If you are a coach and you're concerned about the issue, what it's going to look for kids, talk to your kids, talk to your kids, talk to your
Agreed.
team. explain to what's going on. World Aquatics, don't come out with fire, come out with education, right? Don't IOC, don't battle it. Like, say, listen, let's have a forum and talk about the value, the importance of this. I think that's really important that we continue talking in the community. Instagram Reels in 6 seconds doesn't tell a story. The commentary Instagram Reel, that doesn't help. Let's have meaningful discussion and dialogue, and do it in your community, do it at your pool, do it around your table. Talk about it with people out there. Everybody has different opinions.
No, I would agree. And like what Jake said earlier, the good and the bad, right? Like if these, drugs literally are helping people and there's no bad effects, like I clearly am a person that needs to know that. But obviously if there's bad effects, people need to know that too. Like just be transparent, actually transparent.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, truth time. Vegas, 2026. The games, assuming that it doesn't get canceled, it's going to happen. Sounds like they got the funding to get through there. Be honest with me, Jake. Are you going to watch it? Or are you not watching it and you're tuning out and you don't want to hear any more about it?
I mean, I think if you're a fan of swimming, it's going to be really hard not to want to watch some swimming. Like, if you told me there's a backyard meet like 5 minutes from my house, I'm probably going to go watch any level of swimming. So, like, if you're talking about, like, I think there's definitely things to make it more attractive or less attractive. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it's fast swimming. It's fast. But I don't think I guess the one point I'll make is I don't think they're going to reach a broader audience outside of, like I'm saying I love swimming, so I will watch it. But if you're saying like a general person that like watches the Olympics and they're like, oh, I'm going to watch the swimming, do I think they're all of a sudden going to watch the enhanced games because they're enhanced? I don't necessarily think so, per se. Like, I don't think they're like, oh, well, now they're taking steroids, so the swimming's going to be that much better, so I'm going to make sure I'm at my couch to watch it at 6 p.m. Like, I don't think it's adding, I guess, a level of attractiveness that I think like a 20.8 to a 21.2 to a bystander doesn't move the needle, in my opinion. So.
Jake, people watch circuses. People love to see like disasters. People on YouTube this day they want to see the weightlifter, woof, and the shoulder comes out.
I agree with that, but
and that's what's going to happen, unfortunately.
No, I agree, but I guess what my thing is, because like it's not going to change the aesthetics of the sport.
No,
like you're right. Like you're talking about weightlifting in a circus. There's like certain aesthetics to a big muscly guy putting an elephant over his head, or a freak show at the Olympia. Like there's actual aesthetic, or football players. We want them to hit harder. We want them to be bigger. Like, and I guess with swimming, because of the nature of the sport, I don't think steroids, it doesn't change the aesthetic of the sport.
It's true.
Per se. Like I said, a 21 50 free to a 19 to us might look a lot different, but to somebody else, it's like I don't think it's making it freaky all of a sudden, per se. So I guess that's like my thing is like I guess if you're talking about enhancing and all of a sudden we see somebody run, because I think in running it's a little bit like we know what fast running looks like and you're not suspended in water. Like if you see somebody go 9.2 in the 100-meter free, that's going to look insane. Like just from an aesthetic standpoint, like art, you're going to look at that and you're like, what the FUCK did I just watch? Per se, like everybody runs, not everybody swims. And like, so to me, I just try to not be biased to swimming. It will be different, I think, from a track standpoint versus a swimming standpoint to a bystander, because everybody's run or ran before. So.
All right, March. You tuning in or are you done?
I didn't watch it this time. I still haven't watched it. The only reason I even knew this happened was my feed blew up and I saw the time, but like I still haven't watched it. I could care less. No interest.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think it's kind of fascinating. I think the fast swimming. I think there's going to be a lot of people like Jake though, who are like, "Hey man, it's happening." I also want to kind of go and see if there's like a heavy. You know how when you go to so I like country music, and I'll go to a country concert. And when I go to country concerts, I'm like, and I live in California, and you're like, okay, this isn't the area of the country where I would have expected there to be a ton of country fans. And then when I get there, all these country people coming out of the woodwork in their cowboy boots and their flannel and their jeans and everything. And it's like, whoa. So, and everybody looks a certain way. What's it going to be like at the enhanced games? Is it going to be a bunch of hairy backs and a bunch of super vascular people just walking around with shaker bottles instead of beers in the stands. Drinking out
Gotta
of a
take my
gallon
supplements.
water.
I got 100 supplements I need to take between sessions here.
Dude, there was either
They're like
SNL or
handing out pill
Monty Python.
packs.
Yeah,
Monty
pretty
Python,
much.
his hands falling off and all kinds of stuff.
Got your blood boy with you in the back just to get you through the full session.
They're going to be doing blood testing. Like, who are the vendors going to be? We're going to have TRT clinics.
Yeah, but say, who are the vendors?
Seriously, like, I wouldn't even be surprised if they did that. It's like, oh, you can get the James Magnuson stack. Like, look how fast he went. And you could get a 30% off discount code if you go through that.
Well, that's one thing is that they are releasing their own product line with this, which I have also mixed opinions on. And I heard them, rationalize it, saying that, hey, we need to make money, we need to be viable to pay the athletes and pass it through. And perhaps, my initial thought was like, you got to be kidding me. This is like every MLM now coming that way. But I don't know. Am I naive to think that pro baseball, NFL isn't just a big business trying to do similar things, just selling different stuff? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe you're naive.
Sorry. Maybe.
I don't know, John. Well, I think that's a good place to end it. I want to say sincere thanks to Jake and Margaret for coming on and sharing your thoughts and putting your faces out there. This is what it's all about, is just having open dialogue and discussion. Thanks for everybody that tuned in on the live stream on YouTube and on Instagram, and appreciate all the questions and comments. If you got any follow-ups, this will be posted. Keep letting us know what you think in the comments, and thanks for hanging out with us. Cheers. That's it for this episode of Social Kick. We'll see ya.
So yeah.
Thanks, guys.